All right, Alan Calder. I'm with the Age of Ingenuity. Then, now, tell me about your sign. What does your sign mean here? What's the sign about?
Well, CB24 is Cable Pulse 24, and people outside of Toronto might not know what it is, but if you've lived in Toronto for any amount of time, you will see CB24. Even if you don't own a television, they'll be in the subway stations, they'll be in restaurants, they'll be in lobbies, they'll be in like holistic healthcare in the lobby. I mean, anything, they're all over the place. And I mean, obviously, my message is against the media in general, which I feel it has always been it's been a disgrace for a long time. But specifically in terms of the whole COVID narrative, they act as a government mouthpiece, and you could say this specifically about CB24. The intelligence level of CB24 is like on a kindergarten level. So that's I mean, I didn't like them even before this whole lockdown thing
I'm Chuck Black, and this is the Age of Ingenuity, our weekly chronicle of Canada's current innovation economy. And we've just had a heavy political week in Canada. Provincial elections in Saskatchewan and British Columbia, 2 by-elections in Toronto. So we're going to talk about that.
And I'm Al Calder. And I know that most of those vying for public office didn't even talk about business closures, the ongoing lockdowns, or anything fun or relevant. Someone should. We'll be talking with Dany Laflamme, the owner of Nova Gym Center Fitness in Quebec. He decided he could either open up his business in defiance of the Quebec government edicts or go bankrupt, one or the other.
But before we get started, I want you to remember to like, to comment, to share, and to subscribe to support this vidcast on Patreon and PayPal. And with that said and done, here are the stories we are currently tracking. And this week is all about Canadian elections and by-elections in Toronto, in BC, and in Saskatchewan. And I think we're going to start at the Toronto by-election first because, well, that's where you and I live. Let me see about sharing the screen. And we should be up right now.
Yep, we're good.
On the October 27th, 2020 Elections Canada Toronto by-election results page. This thing updates every minute or so. So if there's a glitch, it's not our fault. But this page explicitly notes that the federal Liberals have managed to retain their 2 Toronto seats, which were up for grabs, but they did so with a narrower than expected victory margin and despite voter apathy. Now in Toronto Centre, broadcaster Marcy Ian managed to hold the Liberal stronghold with 42% of the votes cast. Her major competitor, Green Party leader Anna Mee Paul, she placed a strong second in the riding. She got 33% of the votes cast. I honestly think that's a strong showing, although she was actually hoping to win. She is the new leader of the Green Party. And in York Centre, let's just go down the list a little bit.
To be fair, she beat the other NDP.
Well, yeah, she beat everybody except
everyone else. She's second place, so it doesn't count for when he votes, but it's better than everyone else.
She did pretty good. And in York Centre, the race to fill the seat vacated by former Liberal MP Michael Levitt, it was narrowly won by a Liberal candidate, Yaera Sachs. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Yaera had 46% of the votes cast over Conservative candidate Julius Tiangson, who received 42% of the votes cast. That was a squeaker. Tiangson at one part of the night, he was generally considered to have been really close to winning. It was a good night for him. Third party candidates, however, including People's Party leader Max Bernier, they fared less well. Bernier received only 642 votes, I think. Yeah, 642 votes. 3.6% of the total cast, I think that was. and he had an awful night. His running mate in Toronto Centre, Bajit Bawa, I hope that's pronounced right again. He only got 271 votes for a little over 1% of the votes cast. Bajit essentially had an awful night. So what do you think of the results, Al?
Well, I think that they campaigned to those results. Like, he really worked himself into oblivion.
I would argue that we've talked about Max Bernier in the past. I actually worked for his campaign about a year or so ago, and I would argue that Bernier's long-term support, whatever is left of it, is going to mostly fade away after this set of election results becomes widely known. I don't think he'll be a competitive candidate in a provincial or a federal riding for a long time to come.
And Chuck, to be fair, the last time anyone had ever heard about him was a year ago when you had been working with him.
Well, he was a fairly senior person in the Conservative Party. To be fair, he was a reasonably good leadership candidate at one time.
At one time.
Yeah, but he seems to have blown his political capital, and I think that's a shame. I think he's basically an honest man. I think he came to the party to discuss issues of importance, such as the actions of the federal government relating to the lockdown, the actions of the provincial government relating to the lockdown, the issues of freedom of speech, the issues of freedom of association. He came to that party really late.
There's no problem with those ideas. But why had no one heard about him, what he was doing then until a week ago?
I don't know. I would argue that the legacy media didn't talk all that much about him. Actually, I take that back. I would argue that candidates generally didn't talk about coronavirus or other issues. Their policy and positions weren't recorded by the legacy media during the campaign. They were perceived as being adjuncts to the party leaders, particularly the Liberals, particularly the Conservatives. They were perceived as not really having a lot of independent thought. You mentioned a comment to me made by a politician.
Kim Campbell, right?
Yeah.
Kim
What did she say?
Well, Prime Minister Kim Campbell, the election's no time to talk about issues.
Yeah, certainly no issues were talked about.
Sorry, no time to talk about policy, I meant.
Yeah.
There's no time to talk about policy.
Yeah, certainly it wasn't in this election in Toronto. I note let me see if I can bring it up. I've been getting so good at bringing this stuff up over the. Has the page come up yet? There we go.
Oh, here we go, Chuck. Yep.
Waiting for the graphic to come up. This is the October 25th, 2020 CP24 post. Liberals managed to hang on to 2 ridings in tougher than expected pair of Toronto by-elections. That's the only real important piece of news. While the Liberals won these 2 seats, they won it by smaller margins than they had sort of expected. I don't think that's really going to matter in the long term. Justin's going to say he has a mandate to move forward with locking us down more.
Hey, so it looks like she brought her posse with her.
Yeah, I see that. Who was that in the title? That's a video. I don't necessarily want to start that, but I think that's one of the candidates. I think that's the Green Party candidate.
Yeah, that would explain why we've never heard of her.
Yeah, maybe. It could also be.
Like Marcy Len is her name.
Oh, okay.
That she's the Liberal.
Oh yeah, she's the Liberal. She's the one who won, and she brought her buddies down, and everybody was happy there.
When I say posse, I was more describing the stagecoach robbing paraphernalia that they're wearing.
I think it's important to note the CP24 post, while initially made before the polls closed, was subsequently updated after the polls closed on the 26th, which suggests to me that even CP24 was too apathetic to post a new article. I think it's worth noting that voter turnout was really low for this by-election, maybe about 30%. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. I just know that's what it is.
That's terrible. Wouldn't you think, Chuck?
Uh,
Like that many people. If that was a grade school course, what would you get on that?
30%. Yeah, 30%. You get a
Did,
failure.
did not complete the course. We didn't
Yeah.
earn democracy this time. But the thing is, like, if it worked, they wouldn't. If it changed anything, they wouldn't let us do it anyway, Chuck.
Yeah. Who said that? You've said that once or twice
Yeah.
before.
Well, it sounds like something I would have liberated from someone else's thoughts, but I don't recall.
I understand completely. Our
Like
next
I've read a
you
lot.
go.
Yeah. No, I've read enough books of this sort of thing that I try to absorb the thoughts, so that they come out and sounding like my own, and then I get sued, for
Yeah.
plagiarism.
I'm gonna go to our next election right now. Again, these are for a variety of locations. The next election we're dealing with is for British Columbia. And we are going to reference the October 25th Vancouver Sun Post BC election results. NDP win, historic majority government. This article notes the NDP win after a very short snap election campaign and highlights the fact that NDP leader John Horgan is the first provincial NDP leader to win twice in a row in BC.
No,
The
well,
NDP
which is
are
significant,
pretty
though.
happy. Huh?
Which is on its own significant.
I would say so. The NDP is considered legitimate government in BC now. This is their first time up. They're no longer just a reaction to the opposition party's mistakes.
They're apparently still the best option. You mean, right?
Yeah.
From the voters' perspective.
Green Party went up a little bit. The Horgan government actually went from a minority to a majority. So the minority government must have wore well on Horgan's NDP colleagues. I think it's worth noting that while the Green Party went from 2 to 3 seats in the provincial legislature, other minor parties fared really, really badly. None of the estimated 60 or so minor party and independent candidates won their ridings or even got a big share of the final vote. As I recall, there are some people from Hugs Over Mass who are out campaigning actively for some third-party candidates in BC, and this has got to be a bit of a disappointment for them. I also think it's worth noting the I confuse easily. The October 25th, 2020 CBC News Post, 10 reasons why the BC NDP has had its most successful election ever. I think most of these comments are crap.
I agree, Chuck.
They say the leader was nice.
Yeah, exactly. Personality.
They talk about Dr. Bonnie Henry. They say that she has been internationally lauded for months for her coronavirus campaign. I find that a little bit disconcerting. I noticed that one day after the election, that I note the October 26, 2020 Vancouver is Awesome Post, BC's top doctor bans house gatherings except for family and you're safe 6. So one day after the election, Bonnie Henry has increased the lockdown in BC. That to me is not necessarily the sort of thing I approve of, and not necessarily the sort of thing that was actually discussed with the voters during the campaign. It was a snap election, and just like in Toronto, in BC, it was not a campaign heavy on detailed policy.
Well, that would make sense then.
Yeah.
And the fact that he won in this first place could have been because he was the powerful one who could call the election.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. It's nothing. I don't begrudge him for that. That's just the system we have.
Yeah, he it was a snap election. He called it several years before his mandate was officially ending. And it was a campaign nobody expected. And it was one of the shortest campaigns in BC history. So hardly anybody even had a chance to get up to speed. So it was a politically motivated campaign. And I think he can argue that he has a mandate to do what he did in the first term. Does that make
Um,
sense?
I'm sure he could argue what he wants, right?
Yeah.
But if he, whatever he campaigned on, he can do morally justifiably. Then
No, I agree. And I also note this article as well. The October 26th, 2020 CBC News Post, BC election turnout sinks to an all-time low. The provincial election got 52% of the eligible population, so it's a little better than the Toronto provincial election. But both elections had a really awful turnout. Nobody really cared, or nobody was really energized by policy discussions. Does that sound fair?
well, no one. It's not uncommon though for these some small elections though. They don't have like national coverage necessarily.
No, fair enough. But BC is an entire province. Let's be fair here.
You're 100% correct then. But by that I mean I don't know enough about it. I guess what I'm really getting at because
Yeah.
it wasn't my thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's their thing, and so they do what they got to do, and that's what I think. Like the coverage they have. I didn't see any of it for real.
Yeah. For all it's worth, at some point, I'm going to ask you about what you think of elections in general. I hope you have some opinions about that.
Hey, I didn't waste 7 years in school for nothing.
And finally, we have the Saskatchewan provincial election, which, as noted in the October 27th, 2020 CBC News Post, Saskatchewan election delivers historic win for Saskatchewan party. This is another election for consistency. This is the fourth time the Saskatchewan party has won a majority mandate in Saskatchewan. And again, not a lot of issues discussed, just a general consensus that the people in charge deserve to remain in charge. And like elsewhere, no real listing of the effect the increased tracking of COVID cases have had in Saskatchewan. There's a lot of local gossip and chatter about how the cases are going up, but like Toronto, like British Columbia, no real understanding of the effect these increased cases have had on sickness or hospital admissions or even death.
That's the deal. Then we're still locked down.
We're still locked down. They're increasing the lockdown in BC. They are still talking about increasing the lockdown in British Columbia, Saskatchewan. There are worried murmurs that they may have to lock down again. I think the biggest thing happening is in Quebec, and for that, I think we go to the October 26th CTV News Post. Quebec's red zone restrictions extended for another 28 days. And according to the premier of the province, most of southern Quebec is officially locked down until tomorrow. And the premier, Francois Legault, has increased the lockdowns for another 28 days. The extended lockdown will begin on Thursday, October 29th, 2020 at noon, about the time this vidcast comes out. And the red zone affected by the extended lockdown includes areas around Montreal and most of southern Quebec. And there's a map available online. I'll put it in the show notes, and we can link up to it. We're talking with Dany Laflamme. He's the owner of Nova Gym Center Fitness. That's one of the gyms affected by the Quebec lockdown extension. And he's also a member of Centres d'Activités Physiques du Quebec. Good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
Good afternoon. Yeah, everything's going well.
What's the government trying to do with your business?
Oh, we don't understand, sir. We try to talk with Mr. Legault, and there's no discussion, no exchange with us. It's the lockdown.
They've locked down for another 28 days. Is that a fair assessment?
Exactly. 28 days again, and maybe again.
And they've singled out gyms. They've singled out dance groups. It looks like anything that has anything to do with physical activities.
Exactly.
And they haven't given you any data or any background information on why they took the decisions.
No justification about their decision, and that's why we decide to reopen, because in our business, just like martial art, gym, yoga, there's no eclosion of the virus. So give us some justification and we will stay closed.
I understand completely why you object to the idea that they're closing your business down with no data. That's as I understand, that's why you joined the organization. That's why you put it together. It's called the Centre d'Activités Physiques de Quebec. Is that fair?
Exactly. It's a coalition of 265 business owner.
And they're all objecting to the lockdown. They're all affected by the lockdown. And their plan is to remain open or to open up tomorrow at noon when the lockdown goes into effect. Is that fair?
Exactly. The main idea of all this, it's that we want that Mr. Legault understand that we are essential. We are the partner. We are the part of the solution. We are there to help clients. We are here to stop the anxiety. People need to stay active to stay healthy, you know. So if we take this off, what happened? They stay at home, depression, suicide, violence. It's not logic.
That makes perfect sense. The premier has also said that if you stay open, if your businesses stay open, if your organization encourages people to stay open and functioning, he'll begin fining them. Do you think he's going to do that?
You know, we take the decision to reopen, and if this happen, if we still close for 2, 3, 4 months again, we will close our gym. We will close our business. So close with tickets or close without tickets, what the difference? What we want is to help our clients to stay healthy.
So what you're saying is that you perform a useful and essential service. You've been hamstrung by the first lockdown. You're starting to run out of money if you can't open and do business, and you have a choice now. You can get put out of business from the fines and the government harassment, or you can stay closed and go out of business because you're broke. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Are you willing to go to court to fight the fines?
We have some lawyer for the coalition that will contest all the tickets if the police come here. Mr. Legault said that they will give us the honor tickets and also clients. So if we receive the tickets, we will contest it, and also the clients' tickets we will contest. So if everybody stay open, I don't think that it's going to be illegal to give us tickets.
That sounds perfectly reasonable. One more question before I let you go. What do you want people to take away from this interview? Do you want them to take away the idea that the gym is essential? Do you want them to take the idea away that the lockdown is without data, public data that can be independently validated to support it? What do you want people to take away from this interview?
The most important and main idea of all this, it's that the people understand that what we want, And what we want that the people understand that yes, we are essential, but also that we want to help them. Every day I receive email, texts of my clients that ask us to reopen because they need us. They need us. Some people have some problem with drugs, alcohol, anxiety, and when they come here, it's their moment to stay active, to be healthy. So this is the main idea. To that the people understand that we are essential. We are a partner. We are the part of the solution.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. We've been talking with Dany Laflamme. He's a member of the Centres Activités Physiques de Quebec, and he's the owner of Nova Gym Fitness Centers, which is probably going to be open on Thursday in the city of Quebec.
For sure, for sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
As noted in the October 27th, 2020, The Logic post, working up a sweat, the pandemic has forced small fitness businesses online, where they're at a huge disadvantage against startups like Peloton and others. Small local fitness businesses like those that are organizing in Quebec are in direct competition with well-funded, non-local startups, which are taking away local jobs and don't have to lock down at the whim of the local government. The government in Quebec should be aware of this, and they should know that if they shut down their local businesses for too long, most of those jobs will never come back.
And those are the stories we're covering this week. As always, the articles we've referenced are listed in the show notes.
This Saturday, we'll be at the Halloween protest march at Dundas Square in Toronto, Ontario. So if you'd like to promote your event or your activity, or you'd just like to drop by and say hi, you can send us an email or you can buttonhole us at the event. Now, if you want to send the email, my email address is chuck.black@protonmail.com.
And we're currently on YouTube and BitChute and hope to be on other platforms soon. Remember to like, subscribe, and share and comment on our posts. Even better, if you like the content we create, send some money to our Patreon and PayPal accounts. We really appreciate your patronage.
And that's all for this week. We'll be back next week with more stories covering our current Age of Ingenuity.